What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2019 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. Huge thanks to Mike, StreetSpeed717, for allowing me to review his epic Sebring Orange ZR1 for you guys today. So about the ZR1, we'll just look at it. I mean, it's the ultimate version of the C7. You know, just a crazy amount of horsepower, crazy amounts of aerodynamics on this thing. You know, super wide tires, the aggressive aero just looks so cool from every angle. I mean, right up front there you have the, you know, front fascia that sticks out and juts out a little more than before. You have this very, very aggressive hood with this massive carbon fiber piece that actually, whenever you open the hood up, stays on the engine. And so the only part of the hood that actually goes up is the orange parts you see, which is really cool. Going over to the sides here, you can see these very aggressive looking wheels and the massive brakes behind it. You have, again, more carbon fiber here going down the side vent here. And of course, the side skirts also have the carbon fiber look to it, in addition to the roof. So I mean, just awesome with the carbon fiber package on this vehicle. Out back there, you see the smaller wing this one has, since this is not the ZTK package. And so you have just the smaller wing there, which allows you to have a higher top speed of 212 miles per hour here. And also it still looks great and gives you some good amounts of downforce still, even with that smaller wing, and looks great. You know, otherwise, you know, it's just more of the same C7 look there in the back with the quad exhaust tips. And so overall, I mean, it's just amazing looking from every single angle. As for the interior of the ZR1, well, it's a very awesome place to be. So anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats. You have these competition bucket seats here in the ZR1, which are, I believe, an option, and have the nice carbon fiber inserts here on the back of them. And man, they are aggressive seats. Not so much in the thigh portion. I mean, it nicely comes up, but it's not hard to get in or out of the seats, which is the important part. But the torso support is phenomenal. It's just so nice and tight. I believe you can adjust it or get, you know, like I said, the more relaxed seats if you'd like, you know, but for thinner body types especially, these seats really hug you in nicely. So overall, they're really cool seats. Next to the steering wheel in the ZR1, which is, you know, the same basic shape as every other C7 Corvette. Nice flat bottom, a great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches. Of course, the ZR1 is a little more special here with the contrast stitching you can see here in orange. Also the carbon fiber accents here on the top and bottom of it, and also the nice little ZR1 emblazoned into the steering wheel at the bottom there. And overall, it's just a really great wheel. You still do also have the paddles here for turning the rev matching on and off. On a manual transmission car, of course, on the automatic, they actually change the gears. And so overall, it's just a great steering wheel. Next to the gauges here in the ZR1, which are, again, basically the same as any other Z06, you know, they just also have, you know, a little nice ZR1 badge there by the boost gauge over there, which is really cool. Otherwise, you have, you know, your analog dials on the left and the right, and then right in the middle there, you have a nice large digital tachometer, which also will show you some other information there in the middle. You can kind of scroll through, you know, your basic trip info, tire pressures, things like that. That's also where it'll display what driving mode you're in. In the ZR1 here, there's just touring, sport, and then track. And so good to have all of those. And so overall, you know, it's a really nice little display there. And, you know, it's been around since the beginning of the C7s here, but I think it still actually looks very modern, even for, you know, something that's been out for several years now. It still looks really cool. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, it's just very simple and very small, of course, this being a small sports car. So all you have is right here the Chevrolet Mylink Display, which is touchscreen, and a really great head unit. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and, you know, isn't a huge screen or anything, but it's plenty for this vehicle, and, you know, has all the basic stuff here. You know, it still has a volume knob, does not have a tune knob, so you actually have to go and hit the little buttons there to tune the radio. But other than that, I mean, everything is really easy to use, you know, great navigation maps, all that type of stuff. And so overall, really good screen there. And I like how, especially here in the ZR1 with the carbon fiber package, it's got, you know, carbon fiber all around it here and looks really good. Otherwise, you just have your climate control knobs here, which have the little displays in the middle, which I always liked. And then you have your basic other buttons here for climate control. And that's basically it. You have your mode selector here behind the shifter. And so just very few buttons and a very driver-focused interior. As far as storage space in the ZR1, again, it's fairly limited, but I mean, the Corvettes have always been much better than a lot of other sports cars. So anyway, first thing in the doors here, you have a pretty nicely sized map pocket. Doesn't have a bottle holder or anything, but again, these doors are pretty small, so totally excusable there. Coming over to the center here, you have your two cup holders, which are a good size, and are nicely out of the way of the shifter too, so you don't really bump your you know, hand into it or anything. And so a good placement of those. Then you have your center armrest here, which you know, is nicely covered an Alcantara here in the ZR1 in this version. And anyway, you open that up and you have, you know, just a very, very shallow center cubby. I admire the fact they did include a center cubby here, but I mean, you can only fit really papers, a wallet, even most sunglasses will be too big to fit in there, unfortunately. But you do also find 2 USB jacks, an auxiliary jack, and a power outlet in there. So good to have all that stuff. But actually, that's not the largest storage space, because one of the cool little tricks of the C7 that I absolutely love is this hidden compartment behind the infotainment screen. So you hit this button, and the screen comes down, and then behind there you'll see another USB jack in there, which is great because you can leave an iPod or, you know, your phone or whatever in there, and you know, nicely tuck it away, but still have it wired in. So a really nice large space there as well. So all things considered, as far as you know, the cabin stuff, it's actually a really practical vehicle. But the practicality doesn't stop there, because the trunk and the all the Corvettes here have always been very, very usable, and that's one of the great things about the Corvette, is that whole hatch opens up there, and so it's a huge, you know, wide and actually a fairly deep space as well. Although it doesn't go down super low, you know, it's still plenty of space to, you know, fit a week's worth of groceries, golf clubs, you know, boxes if you want to move or something. I mean, plenty of space back there, and it's obviously you can pass right through to the interior with it as well. So I mean, if you're doing hard braking, it might not be the greatest thing, but otherwise, you know, it's nice because that means everything's within easy reach there. And so overall, that really makes it nice and you know, versatile as well. All right, so start up and go for a drive. So the ZR1 has a standard Corvette key like all the others here. And of course, this keyless entry and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it roars to life. This one actually roars. I say that pretty loosely, but this thing, I mean, when it starts up, it fires up. All right, so setting off in the 2019 Corvette ZR1. Well, first thing you notice here is this hood. This hood is the most dominating thing about this driving experience at low speeds, at least. And that is, I mean, it's just, look at it. It just comes up so high and actually does block your view, but it's okay because this thing is just a crazy vehicle, and so it kind of goes with the almost cartoonish nature of it. And so, you know, but it almost reminds me of like an old WRX STI hood scoop. It's just even bigger than that with how much it blocks your view. But it just really looks cool, and it does kind of go off to the side there, so you still have a really good view down the road here on the left-hand side. Other things to note here is I always am impressed by, you know, this has so much power, but all of the Corvettes still have such light, easy clutches. It's a very predictable clutch. It's very easy to use. The shifter is also nice and notchy and precise. You know exactly where every gear is at, and so overall, you know, it's a very easy car to drive, actually. Another thing you notice is just those crackles and pops from that exhaust. It sounds awesome. We'll be hearing plenty more of that here in a second. Now, usually this is where I would accelerate onto a back road, but this car has way too much power to even try that without it actually being a straight road. So we're just going to kind of drive like a grandma a little bit. And even just a quarter throttle, this thing wants to take off. But we're first going to kind of judge how this thing handles, because that's the real big thing about the ZR1, is although it is, of course, very, very fast in a straight line, it also handles really well. You know, it's got 285 wide tires in the front, 335s in the rear, Michelin's that grip really well. And so, you know, I'm going to push it on a few corners here and see, you know, what it feels like, you know, at 5 or 6 tenths, because that's the thing with vehicles like this. You have such high limits that you can never even get close to the limits on the streets, especially not safely. But I mean, most of the time, it's just got way more limits. These are track beasts, that's what they're made for, but it still is very fun at low speeds. You know, that's one of the great things with these GM motors, is they have lots of low-end torques. You don't have to wring them out like you do with something like a GT350 or something. As soon as, you know, 2,000 RPMs, you get on it, and I mean, it just, you know, plants you in the back of your seat, even with just a light throttle application. Other things, though, that you probably don't care about with the ZR1 are, it's actually a pretty refined vehicle still, actually. You know, it's not too noisy other than the exhaust. I mean, you don't really actually even hear any tire noise or road noise. And so, you know, if you do want to go on a, you know, longer trip in this, I'm sure it would still be very comfortable, just like any other Corvette. And, you know, the ride is also pretty smooth. I mean, we're on pristine roads right now, but, you know, so far the ride is really compliant and feels pretty good. All right, so now we're coming up to some tight corners here. Just get an idea as my camera gear goes flying. But man, this thing's got tons of grip. It's crazy. Man, this is just not, I mean, it's one of those cars, I mean, it's heavy a little little bit. I mean, it's 3,500 pounds. It's not that heavy, you know, compared to something like a Challenger or something. But you know, you feel the weight a little bit, but it's just got so much grip. That's the way GM does it. You know, the same thing with the ZL1s, the Camaros, and all those, where it's just, they're heavy vehicles, but they have tons of grip. So it's like, can I actually do this? And you can, because it has the grip to back up the speed, the higher speed you're going at. But I mean, it's just, it almost feels unnatural, you know. And as I get caught up to traffic here, that's the big problem, is trying to enjoy this type of handling before you get caught up to someone, because it's just got, again, such high limits. That was hardly even 5/10, and it still was exciting. It's funny though, because it really does fun to dance around. I can still, even though it's got this 335s in the back, I can feel them losing grip a little bit. Now it's, you know, not enough to make you scared, but it reminds you have to treat this vehicle with respect, because it will certainly bite back if you're, even with traction control and everything on, like I have it on. I think this thing could get bent out of shape real quick if you weren't delicate with your throttle inputs. Just like that, I just went half throttle and immediately just wants to get squirrely on me. Oh man, it sounds so good. It's just, again, I'm not even, you know, pushing this engine at all, but just even at these lower RPMs, just the burbles and the crackles, and it's a real nice volume too, that it almost, you know, it doesn't seem like you would need an aftermarket exhaust. All right, so I've been advised first gear is probably pretty useless, but we'll go into it a little bit and then go from second. Here we go. There we go. Man, this thing. Listen to it too, it's just ferocious. Man, I really need to tie my camera gear down because it cannot hang. Man, that's addictive. Oh man. It makes my chest hurt. That's the way it was with the ZL1 too. It's just crazy. And the thing with the ZL1 is that felt really fast because it had the automatic as well. So in addition to the high horsepower, you know, the manual ZL1s don't feel quite as fast, but this has so much torque, 715 pound-feet of torque, 755 horsepower. By the way, I even forgot to say the specs. It's got a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 engine that's just really impressive. It's called the LT5, and yeah, supposedly with the automatic, this will do 0 to 60 in 2.85 seconds, which is just mind-blowing here. Again, I don't even know how you managed to get this thing to grip to even do something like that, because it just wants to spin. Oh man, but it's a blast. But yeah, so it's very impressive from a start, and then we're just cruising here at lower than highway speeds, but just a third gear pull, and the front end lifts up, and you just blast off into the future of this thing. It's crazy. I love how the front end lifts up though. It's really fun. And these brakes are necessary for sure. These are carbon ceramic brakes you have here in the ZR1. And I can't even like slam them, it's too much, because this camera gear will come and literally impale me. But it's very, very impressive braking, as you can see, I'm sure. It's pretty crazy. Other things to note here, like I mentioned, 212 mile per hour top speed here in the ZR1. I can totally see how I can do that very, very easily. This time I'm just gonna do a second gear pull here at 2,000 RPMs, and we'll see how it does again. Wow, no wheel spin. Wow, that's impressive. That's even more impressive. I thought for sure it was still gonna light up those tires, but 335s don't lie. That's really impressive. If you're spinning your wheels, it doesn't feel that fast. Whenever you're actually not spinning your tires, that's how you know it's a very fast vehicle. If it can actually put all that to the ground. It's addictive, man. Alright, so now that we've thoroughly established this thing is very fast in a straight line, which was a discovery to no one, now let's just see a little bit more, push it on these corners and see if we can kind of feel the limits a little bit more. Again, I'm not going to be able to push it even remotely close, but I've got to say this thing is really fun on a back road. Of course it is, because it's just got so much grip. But it's still that back end is twitchy though. It's way more twitchy than I was expecting, honestly, because again, since it does put that power down so well, I assumed that you know, the back end would just be, you know, glued. And I mean, it is pretty good still, but it's just so much power that it still just really wants to kick itself out at every possible opportunity. The rev match downshift is something they've had for a while in the C7s, but it's really great. And I still love it, especially now, you know, with this louder exhaust. It's just really, you can play this thing like a trumpet. It's awesome with that rev matching. Although, like I said, it's very easy to do it yourself as well, and you can turn it off if you want, because it's still a very easy, like I said, clutch and shifter to use. But this thing it just tears up a back road. I mean, the car's not breaking a sweat. I'm going around this stuff like it's nothing. You know, it can take it all day. And thankfully, you're in these nice competition bucket seats that really hold you in place well, so you're not even moving around. It's very exciting, but still somewhat like undramatic, where it's just, yep, doing it, like no worries, no issues. I mean, you just get that great soundtrack to listen to. And just like that, we've caught up to traffic once again, which is a very common problem I think you'll have if you own a ZR1. Just the way it goes. This thing, it's a blast. It's one of those cars I think you really have to take it to the track to fully enjoy it, though, because you know, you can't really push the limits. You can't fully exploit its power or its grip or any of that stuff at any kind of remotely close to legal speeds. And so, you know, take it to the track, you can really kind of push this thing. I think that would be even more fun. But I mean, as a street car, the ZR1 is phenomenal, of course, and it's the ultimate C7. You know, it's probably the last front-engine ultimate Corvette here. And so, you know, looking back on it from a historical standpoint, this car is going to go down in history as, I think, you know, a high watermark of one of the all-time greats. And I mean, I'm sure the mid-engine one is going to just be an improvement, but it's going to also kind of, you know, miss, I think, a little bit of, you know, not having something front engine, which we've had in the Corvette, you know, since its inception. And so, yeah, it's almost one of those things you get a little sentimental, I guess, about, because the C7s have just been so great here, you know, starting from the very original, you know, C7. Those were a blast to drive, going up to the Z06, which was also phenomenal, and now into the ZR1. It's just been a great saga here with the C7 Corvettes, and yeah, it's a very special car, and it will continue to be a special car forever. And so yeah, I'm very appreciative to Mike here for letting me review it for you guys. These are going to be rare beasts as well. I think we're only making 3,000 for America, I think like 300 for Canada, so a very, very limited car. And so yeah, it's a special car, and if you have the opportunity to ever drive one or own one, I would definitely recommend it, because that's the last thing I want to mention is the pricing of these. I mean, it's only starting at 120 grand, and yes, only 120 grand, but I mean, compared to everything else out there, you know, for that price tag, it's either going to be, you know, like a 10-year-old Lambo, or you're going to get something with way less power, way less performance. That's always been one of the strongest things about the C7s and all Corvettes in general, is the amount of value you get for your money is just off the charts. And so it's going to be tough to find something else that is more exciting in a straight line and more exciting in a corner. I think this has the total package. You know, there's vehicles like the Tesla that, you know, might be insane in a straight line, and you have stuff that might handle really, really well. But for a vehicle to do everything is really rare, and that's always been one of the strengths of the C7. But in particular here, the ZR1 is just absolutely insane. But Mike's been quietly sitting in the passenger seat here the whole time, and been brave enough to ride along with me. But
oh, absolutely.
What's your favorite part about this car, though?
Favorite part is, I mean, besides the obvious, the power, really, I think the noise is one of the best things about it, man. That the pops and crackles of that exhaust is so addicting and real. And it's weird because you didn't really get that in the Z06 at all.
Yeah.
And in this car, it's just all the time. It's like it pops as much as a Huracan. Yeah. So I love the noise. I love being back in a stick shift car. It's a lot of fun, especially with like this much power. Like you can, like, stick shift cars are slowly going away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And not just all, you know, forget about all stick shift cars, but especially ones with 755 horsepower.
Yeah, is this actually the highest horsepower manual car?
See, that's what I was thinking. I think it is. I think it's the highest manual horsepower. I mentioned that in a video like a while ago.
Yeah.
And I can't believe nobody else has like touched on this, but this is, I think, the most powerful manual car you can buy, production car. Now people have said like Koenigsegg CCX and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about like real production
stuff.
cars.
Yeah, because I think like Pagani might still offer it in the Zonda if you like convince them to build you another Zonda or something. But I think other than that,
I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think this is the most powerful manual production car you can buy, which is pretty cool, and quite possibly one of the last.
Yeah.
Might even be the last manual Corvette.
So you've put like over 1,800 miles on this already.
Yep.
So is there anything about driving it that much that you've kind of noticed beyond, you know, the first shock factor of everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I daily drive pretty much all my cars, and this one, yeah, 1,800 miles in essentially 2 weeks, like 2.5, 3 weeks.
That's a lot of driving.
And yeah, I mean, lots of trips to the drag strip to, you know, drive it there, drive it down the strip. Just finished up its first ever track day at New Jersey Motorsports Park.
Nice.
And you were saying in your review how it's like you're sure it's a beast on track. It is definitely a beast on track. Like this thing on track is nuts. Well, I was chasing a 675 LT down the backstretch, and he was not pulling away. You know, we were hitting on the backstretch of Lightning at New Jersey Motorsports. We were hitting about 165, which is really fast for cars. And it's really great to drive on track too. I mean, it's good. It's a good car to live with. You know, it's a good car to live with. It's got all the creature comforts of basically anything. I mean, you got heated and cooled seats.
Which is crazy for a car.
It's
that's again as extreme as this is. That's the great thing about it. It's just,
but also, it's got the raw power when you want it. So it really is a great overall package of performance.
So anyway, huge thanks once again to Mike. If you don't follow him already, I'm sure you already do, but if you don't, definitely subscribe to his channel. He's going to be doing lots of ownership insight videos into this vehicle and all of his other awesome vehicles that he owns, a McLaren and a bunch of other stuff. So definitely check out his channel. I'll include the link in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.